During the Second World War, tanks were used on a large scale in every theater of war. These steel monsters served as mobile fortresses under enemy fire. For German crews, the tank was everything at once: workplace, shelter, and sometimes their grave. They ate on its armor, slept under it, and went into battle inside it, hoping the next hit would not be their last. In this video, we will go inside the tank and see what life was really like for the men who served in it. The battlefield is a place of unpredictable dangers, chaos, and numerous enemies. The best chance for a tank crew to survive this madness is tight professional cohesion, built on mutual trust and experience. As a rule, a tank crew consisted of 5 men. The life and death of a German tank depended on the individual skills and motivation of each crew member. To make this work, the Germans established a strict formal hierarchy inside the tank, dividing the crew according to a clearly defined system of duties.
Crews did not become efficient overnight. A newly formed tank crew had to drill endlessly just to perform the basic routines without hesitation: starting the engine, taking up combat positions, loading and unloading ammunition, changing position under fire. In a good crew, everyone knew the other's habits: who reacted a split second faster, who needed an extra word of clarification over the intercom, who stayed calm when things went wrong. Veterans often preferred to stay with the same tank and the same men for as long as possible, because a crew that had survived several battles together could react almost instinctively. In the chaos of combat, that invisible teamwork often mattered more than the thickness of the armor. At the very top of the hierarchy was the commander, who gave the orders and had the final say. A good commander had to lead the tank in battle, using willpower, intuition, and experience. The crew never knew what targets would appear, from where, at what moment, at what distance, or how long they would remain visible, so the ability to make quick, firm decisions was the most important skill of an outstanding commander. The gunner was second in the hierarchy. An experienced gunner was extremely valuable because it was his skill that ultimately decided victory or defeat, especially in tank versus tank combat. The gunner's position was usually given to junior NCOs and future tank commanders. In this way, the gunner became not just the commander's assistant, but his right-hand man. If the commander was absent or put out of action, the gunner had to take over his duties. The third, no less important crew member was the driver. Because his job was so demanding, the driver enjoyed special privileges within the hierarchy. While the rest of the crew could relax a little during a road march, the driver was constantly working. He was usually excused from extra duties, such as guard shifts, and was allowed to rest at every opportunity because everyone wanted the driver to be as well rested as possible. If the tank developed mechanical problems, he also had to make sure the repairs were carried out. The fourth crew member was the radio operator. One of the main advantages of early German tanks was that they had both internal and external radio communication. But for that equipment to be useful, you needed well-trained, intelligent soldiers who could handle delicate electronics. Last in the hierarchy, but by no means least, was the loader. His main task was handling the ammunition. This was also a vital job because even the best gunner could only keep firing as long as his loader was able to reload the gun. Life for a tank crew was exhausting, both physically and psychologically. Space inside the tank was extremely limited. There was very little room to move. The noise inside the tank was deafening. The roar of the engine, the clatter of metal, and the constant chatter over the radio. Crew members often suffered hearing loss and ringing in the ears, which in some cases became permanent. The heat generated by the engine was intense, making the tank's interior feel like an oven. The metal hull, on the other hand, made it bitterly cold in winter. Temperature differences between the inside and outside of the tank could be very sharp, leading to condensation and fogged-up optics that impaired the crew's vision. It was almost impossible to control the temperature. Another problem was the constant smell of oil and fuel. Tank engines were notoriously unreliable and often leaked oil and fuel, making the already toxic atmosphere even worse. The smell was overwhelming and could cause nausea and headaches. On top of that, the crews were exposed to fumes from the gun when it fired, which further polluted the air.
When it comes to engines, it is important to note that some tanks ran on diesel and others on gasoline. The gasoline-powered engines were far more dangerous for the crew because of how easily the fuel could ignite. There was also the problem of physical strain. Crew members were forced to remain seated for long periods of time, sometimes for 12 hours or more. The lack of movement caused aches and pains, as well as circulation problems. In such cramped conditions, it was also difficult to stretch or move around, which could lead to back and joint issues. Some commanders had to stand for hours at a time. Some were forced to stick their head out of the hatch to improve their view or guide the tank more accurately. For obvious reasons, this was extremely risky for the commander. Another constant issue was the lack of sleep. Crew members were often on duty for long stretches and had to try to sleep while the tank was moving, which was almost impossible because of the noise and vibration. During normal downtime, the crew would all sleep together outside the tank, under a tarpaulin or something similar to protect them from the weather. Tank crews had to remain alert at all times, watching their surroundings, tracking threats, and anticipating enemy movements. This was made harder by the fact that visibility through periscopes or vision slits was often very limited. Tank crew members went hungry together, felt stressed together, got on each other's nerves together, and drilled the same commands and maintenance procedures on the tank day after day until they were ready. And then, they went into battle together. Once in the field, the tank became their home in the literal sense. During night halts, the men would dig a large shelter under the tank to protect themselves from shrapnel from bombs exploding nearby. The tank itself was carefully camouflaged to match the surrounding terrain. In both summer and winter, the tank shielded them from the sun, rain, and snow. Of course, when the temperature outside rose, the atmosphere inside the metal box became hot and suffocating. When the temperature fell, it turned into a freezer with no internal heating. And although a thick winter coat might sound comfortable, it restricted movement even more. Driving rain was almost as unpleasant as the cold because the inside of the tank quickly became wet and slippery.
The crew members faced countless challenges, from cramped space and constant noise to extreme temperatures and a toxic atmosphere. The physical strain on the body was significant, as was the constant pressure of being such a valuable target. Despite these hardships, tank crews remained an essential part of the war machine. For many of them, the tank became both home and coffin, a steel box that protected them from one shell and failed them at the next. Their story is a reminder of what life inside that armor really cost.